All right, welcome in, everybody. I was kind of pressed for time to catch a little window of weather that we see right here. And setting up the cameras was not a priority. I figured I could do it once I'm up in cruise and stable and in a good spot. And that's where I'm at right now. So we're going from my home airport in Pontiac up to Sheboygan. There's a big cold front right here. And you can see that because there's a convective segment here and there's a convective segment here. Up above there is just kind of some rain showers. So I had a nice little window. The problem we're going to have is that coming back, this line could build. So may have to deviate behind it, and we're just going to see what we have to do here. But it's pretty smooth right here. Tops are at about 7,000 feet. And we got a little bit somewhat helping wind. So the field is IFR. It's not down to minimums. The last weather report about a half hour ago is overcast at 1100, light rain, fairly light winds, 030 at 8. I always plan to have an out. And we've got, like I said, on the way back, we just might have to stay and hold behind this line on that cold front until it pushes a little bit, unless we have a decent gap like we do right now. And a commenter made a really good point, and I totally agreed with him, is that, so those comps, so the latest one.
Mike, this precipitation is moving pretty quickly eastbound. I'm trying to take you as close as I can to it without going into it. That way you're still going to be able to make it into Livingston County before it overtakes that.
Yeah, the controllers are great when it comes to this, because these comps are, the latest one I have is 7 minutes old. But what the commenter mentioned, and he's 100% right, is that there's still another delay from the time the radar gets it, sends it to SiriusXM, and then they upload it. So I don't know what that time is.
Let's say 7,000 for now. 7 kilometers.
So his point was that, you know, some people think this is real weather radar. It is not. It does give you a good correlation. Like I can see right here, this big convective area is that big area right there. So, I mean, looking outside is still important to do. And it's like, okay, well, we've got lots of areas to not fly into things. So we're not going to fly into that. I'm not going to fly into that. And we've got an out. We can get down. So, but yeah, he made a good point, and I don't want to ever, what anybody ever think that, I ever think that this is like an onboard radar that jets have or better aircraft have. This is not. This is another piece to the puzzle that you can build and see. Like, I waited an extra few minutes on the ground, or I timed my departure based on this cell right there moving out, so I'd have a window. That's why I had a pretty small window, because I knew this one was building up, and so I'm like, okay, I'm going to shoot it now. I've got plenty of time. And then on the way back, we'll stay on the backside and see what we can do to pick our way forward. But hopefully some of this stuff builds up and dies off. Like I said, that cold front, in fact, we can see it right here. Well, it actually shows that cold front being a little bit higher right now. But it makes sense that it's right along. These storms are right on the outside of that cold front. So yeah, this is just real-world IFR flying.
November 110 Mike, when able, advise you have the weather notice at Livingston County and say approach requesting.
And there's always a way to do it safe, and never be afraid to call it at any point, even halfway through the flight. There was a commenter that I connected with down in Texas, and he had those types of questions where, you know, I basically told him a couple different things from my personal perspective, and again, not an instructor. This is just how I treat it. Always have an out, whether it's icing, whether it's weather, whatever it might be. Always have an out that you can get out of any situation. If you do that, you're pretty good. And then just be strong enough mentally to know that if things start going sideways, you know, I use kind of that 3-point check.
November 110 Mike, Roger, you can expect that.
One thing goes wrong, okay, I kind of mentally note it. Another thing goes wrong, I'm on high alert, like, okay, hey, we might need to postpone this or deviate or do something, whether it's
South 570 Delta there.
and that's whether I'm getting either behind the airplane, the situation's changing, whatever it might be. If you feel like you've made a mistake one time, correct it. If you feel like you made another mistake, be strong enough to know, like, hey, I got to scrub this right away, or I got to get out of the situation that I'm in. And if you're talking to ATC, delay vectors are a wonderful thing. If you're in a hard IFR and things are not going your way, recognize it. You know, you read too many stories about people going down the tubes and they just aren't recognizing that. You know, all these people talk about the Swiss cheese effect and all the different things that compound. You know, I always say be man enough to own up, to be like, shit, I'm in a bad spot. Let's get out of it right now.
317 kilo, my contact your express 18.65.
Don't try to press on. Don't try to save it at the last second. That's when bad stuff happens. I was talking to this guy who I was flying with, who's a professional pilot, and he was talking about, I'm not sure which airline it was, and he was talking about their policies. Even in a two-pilot operation, if I remember right, he talked about, you know, kind of like a traffic light system. And, you know, at some point, you know, if the right pilot or the left pilot, his duties, if he's kind of going down the tubes, and to be able to recognize that and tell the other pilot, like, hey, I'm at a yellow status or I'm at a red status, and you know, in those different points, they have to start offloading some of those tasks. Because if you fly, you know there are times that you feel yourself going down a rabbit hole and getting behind. And to be able to verbalize that to a second pilot and have them start shedding tasks is huge. Obviously, I don't have a second pilot, so I have to be hyper aware of where my situation is and how I'm, you know, how ahead of the airplane I am. And if I get behind, you know, again, what's my out? Is it a delay vector? Is it getting down and landing? Is it, you know, what might it be? But as I progress in my flying experience, like, that's huge for me. Always in my brain, kind of like the scan I do with my engines and my instruments, I'm also scanning myself like, hey, are we ahead or behind? Are we ahead or behind? I'm kind of always asking myself, sometimes I'm like, okay, what could I be looking at? What could I be doing? What could I be briefing? I'm always mentally thinking about those things. What could I be doing? What could I be doing to stay ahead and kind of like getting that homework done? Yeah, so it's harder in a single pilot operation, obviously. And, you know, that's just, again, not instruction, just my 2 cents and younger pilots that are going up, you know.
November 524 Charlie Charlie, contact Minneapolis Center 125.47.
2547, 524 Charlie Charlie, that's it.
Talk to Minneapolis here.
4274, standby.
Minneapolis Center, Cirrus 524 Charlie Charlie, 8000.
November 524 Charlie Charlie, Minneapolis Center, West Branch, altimeter 2983.
83.
So yeah, just my 2 cents or my personal opinion, pilot to pilot, not instruction again, just kind of what my thoughts are and sharing it with you guys, for sure. Yeah, it looks gnarly over there. You can see it on the radar or the satellite SiriusXM. That's not where you want to be.
Deviations left of course are approved when I will correct walleye and
so, anyway, I'll pick you up on the approach. All right, so they got me vectoring around. I originally requested to this fix called JATRA. I was fully planning to do the one turn in the hold, but Minneapolis Center just said, hey, let's go 10 degrees to the left and he'll vector me for the straight in.
November Tango, change to my frequency 134.6.
The weather there is still...
568 Tango Tango's with you, 34.6. Tango Tango.
Yeah, the weather's still 1,100 feet.
So looking at the chart, that only gives me 20 feet. Turns out the weather wasn't that low, but still yet, my brain instantly went on high alert. And oh, the irony. I just talked about getting behind the airplane, and fixation is a real thing. When your brain is thinking about one thing, everything else is still moving. So there's a couple things happening right now that weren't really apparent at the time, and it got me behind the airplane. I had originally told him I wanted to turn in the hold because it could get me down lower and get me slower in that time. My brain was already set up to do that. Now I was setting the system up to do something different than I had planned. And looking back on this, I was clearly fixating because by the time he clears me coming up here, I had over 2,000 feet to drop. Now granted, I had 6 miles to do it, but I was coming in fast. I wasn't already set up in what would be considered a landing configuration, slowing down to, let's say, 120 knots and having my first notch of flaps out. All of those things, because I had planned to do that in the hold, and now he's throwing me something different and I'm getting preoccupied with making sure that I can comply with his instructions, I got behind.
4 Charlie Charlie, maintain 3,200 until established, cleared straight in. RNAV runway 10 approach, Sheboygan Airport. Maintain 3,200 until established, cleared straight in, 10 approach into Sheboygan, 524 Charlie Charlie.
Even after 700 hours of flying, and a lot of it in actual IMC, I'm still reminded how easy it is to fall behind when something changes, whether that's something that you're doing or something that ATC's doing, or whatever the situation is. You can easily get behind the airplane like I did here. And the only real issue for me here is I'm just still slow to correct on my speed, because I'm obviously high, and if you're high and you have a lot of speed, it gets really challenging to get down.
4 Charlie Charlie, change to advisory, approved, cancel here, otherwise through clearance delivery. Forward advisory, 4 Charlie Charlie. Gaslight 202, maintain.
I'm trying to strike that balance between a somewhat stabilized approach, and in my mind at this point, I'm flying this to 4 mile, 2 mile for my flap settings. That's usually what I do in my plane. 4 miles, I'm at 50%. 2 miles, I'm at 100%.
So yeah, the ceilings were reported at 1100, and this takes us to 1080.
Statistics 78, 5 mile final runway 28 Manatee.
All right, tracking 097 makes sense. He kept me high for a little while, so we just gotta hustle down here. Keep it coming down. All right, 2100 going to 1080. All right, I got ground contact. We're gonna be good.
Minneapolis Center, 4 Charlie Charlie, we're going to cancel IFR. 4 Charlie Charlie, cancellation of CD, squawk IFR, good day.
Charlie traffic, citation November 7202, 7.5 mile final, runway 9er on the RNAV, runway 9er, Charlie traffic.
So if you're watching that closely, you were seeing how extremely fast I was. Fast and high, that's a bad combo. But again, fairly confident in my abilities to slow up.
Minimums.
There's minimums, landing.
Sheboygan traffic, Cirrus 524 Charlie Charlie, short final 10, full stop, Sheboygan.
Too slippery.
Sheboygan traffic, Cirrus 524, Charlie Charlie. We're going to taxi onto runway 17 and then take the first right, Sheboygan.
It's an airport I have not been into yet. All right, well, not my greatest approach, but plenty safe. And now we're just going to figure out how I'm going to navigate these storms down to Pontiac. Not going to film that one because I've got some people in here that probably don't want to be on camera. Talk to you later.
One thing to note here is I don't know if it's dependent on the level of Foreflight that you subscribe to, but there's a debrief feature in here. I'm not sure if it's similar to that Cloud Ahoy, but on this specific approach, it breaks down all your, it kind of gives you a score, or does give you a score. I'm kind of surprised it gave me a 98 on this, but you can see for each segment of the approach, what your speeds were, what your descent rate was, all the different things if you were in parameters of the profile you have set up for your aircraft. So it's pretty cool, breaks it all down. It's under your track logs on the Foreflight web, not on the app. It's under track logs, and then you can hit the debrief. Again, it may be dependent on, I have a higher end tier subscription, so it may be dependent on that. As for the flight home, I didn't film it, but it was pretty wild. I did not do what I had thought were going behind. I did go through some moderate to heavy precip up at the top there and had to kind of just skirt the leading edge. This little cell here did actually get close on approach, but we got in just before it got on the airport, so pretty interesting.